Hello and welcome back to Tales. My name is Fumi. In this video, I'll be discussing, or we will be discussing, about the recent diversion, the proposed diversion on the Coastal Road project. Now, so many have said that this project has now been abandoned. It's going through a different route, but has this really been abandoned? Now, that's the question. Now, what is this Coastal Road project? I'll tell you. There's the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, and it's designed to stretch 700 kilometers and pass through 9 states in Nigeria. The federal government commenced the construction of this project in March 2024. That's just less than 2 months ago, right? And it all started with the first phase, which stretches 47.47 kilometers starting from Lagos. Now, that's where the issue lies. To start or to commence the construction of the 47.47 kilometers in Lagos, several properties had to be demolished. Now, one of those that has garnered so many critics is the landmark beach. Now, the landmark beach is built on this beautiful shoreline, has beach resorts, has so many properties, food. If you want to see more videos about that, I'll link it here. So many businesses. There's an ecosystem. Now, that part of the shoreline had to go. So everything up until now has been on course. Properties have started being demolished. The issues of compensations are being discussed. And the very first phase has started. Construction has started on this side of town. Another very important thing to talk about is the initial construction from Lagos wasn't supposed to go through this route. When I say through this route, I mean through the landmark beach. It was supposed to go behind, which is the Water Corporation Road. Now, there's so many structures or buildings or properties on Water Corporation. In fact, about 750 buildings would have had to go if the government insisted on going through the initial or the original plan. But if they were to go through the new plan, which is the landmark route, not saying just, but what I'm saying is, compared to the initial 750, 450 properties, so lesser number, would have had to go, which unfortunately and sadly would have affected properties like Landmark Beach, Good Beach, and other properties that are in the limelight at the moment. And so, like I said earlier, discussions are underway, and as you can imagine, there will be so many discussions over a long period of time because, like I said, so many businesses, structures, families are going to be displaced or are being displaced. So the issue of compensation is going to be ongoing. How much is worth? What is ideal? And that is what is going on. So many stakeholder meetings. And in one of these stakeholder meetings, it came to light that there are over 600 ancestral homes in some parts of town called the Okun Aja community. Not just that, which obviously spans hundreds of years. If the coastal road is to pass through that corridor, imagine displacing a whole cultural heritage spanning 600 years. And not just that, they have also discovered that there's some cables underneath the earth, underneath the road or the earth, as the case may be. There's some submarine cables, and now that is the issue. That is why they've had to pause, stop, and think and reconsider. And that is where this video is going to be focusing on. So between kilometer 16 and kilometer 25, all within this 47.47 kilometer road, like I mentioned earlier, that is within the corridor for Lagos, the federal government has discovered two things: cultural heritage, ancestral homes dating back the existence of Lagos, dating back hundreds of years, approximately 600 years ago, which is likely to displace traditional homes, palaces, kingdoms, and also they've discovered telecommunication, infrastructure, and submarine cables, among others, along this axis. So, for instance, if the government were to insist on continuing on these corridors, the things that could have been affected are the MTN submarine cables. There are also workstations along the Okun Aja community. There's something called the 2 Africa submarine cable and 50 megawatt power plants. Now, all of this as you and I know, are crucial for national security, one, and also internet gateway. Imagine if Nigeria were to shut down. No power, no light, no telephone, no online banking, no internet banking. And not just Nigeria now, it's going to affect other West African countries or other African countries that are also connected, because all of this have to do with interconnectivity, isn't it? So these two things, as a matter of national security, as a matter of cultural preservation, has now compelled the federal government not to abandon, as against what is being put out there, but to reroute and divert at some point the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway realignment. So the 47.47 kilometers that I earlier mentioned is still on the way, and it's still going to pass through landmark, but just between kilometer 16 and kilometer 25, they would revert to the original alignment and then come back at some point. I hope that makes sense. And as always, very typical in discussions like this or infrastructural projects like this, as earlier mentioned in some of my videos, it is going to spark so many reactions. And it should, because so many businesses, lives, properties, the issue of compensation on one hand is being discussed. People are not happy, and as they should. But imagine SAT3, those that are very good or those that are in this telecommunication space, please let us know in the comments below. Imagine if SAT3, Main 1, Glo 1, WACS and ACE, apparently some of these submarine cables came all the way from Europe and they cover thousands of kilometers and they have landing stations here in Lagos. Imagine if all of this had to be damaged or are damaged during the construction, and people are now saying, oh, they've now abandoned, they're going back to the original. They're not going back to the original, because if they were to go back to the original, over 700 properties would go. So that is the whole idea why this route is being sort of constructed, is being proposed to be constructed. And like I said, either way, properties are going to be affected. Either way, people are not going to be happy. So it's a case of what to choose and why are they choosing it, if that makes sense. And as always, other people are arguing, which I totally enjoy this sort of argument and critics, because it gives us how to think and reason in this very, very difficult time. Many have said, why didn't the environmental impact assessment release this sort of information beforehand? They would have known, right? But the government has said the EIA did reveal it. They knew, but they're not bound to release it. If you're a lawyer, please let me know, because the government is covered by Section 15B of the Freedom of Information Act 2011. And it doesn't allow them to disclose certain information. So they've done their homework or they've done their background work, but they're not allowed or they're not permitted or they're not obliged to release certain information for public interest. And if there's anything I've learned in all my times of research, is that when issues like this happen, a lot of us now go back to the law and are even aware of these sections of the law, because there's actually a section of the law, Section 15B of the Freedom of Information Act 2011, that actually covers the government in what they're doing. So if they said there's an EIA report, there is an EIA report. If they said they're not obliged to release it to the public, the law covers them. Or what do you think? If you're a lawyer in the house, let me know. What are your thoughts? So as I earlier mentioned, these are the reasons for the diversion of the Coastal Road project along the Lagos corridor. And it's not like it's been totally abandoned. It's to preserve cultural heritage of about 600 years ancestry in the Okun Aja community, to save property, to save infrastructure, and obviously to save indigenous communities in this time, because there are some communities that are very, please, let's not even go into that. And also, there are more houses or structures that would have been demolished if they were to go through the original routes. And now over 450 properties are now earmarked for demolition. So far, construction is ongoing. In fact, it's due to be, the official flag off is due Sunday, May 26th. But what do you think? Against all odds and everything that is coming up right now, I still strongly believe there is still going to be light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to generate tourism, economic viability for us. What do you think?